So, Season 7. Season 7 seems to be considered a very controversial season because it was the first season to be produced by Hit Entertainment and was also the last season to what most Thomas fans refer to as the classic series. The last season to have the old Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell music, the last to have the original intro, and the last to be directed by David Mitton. For many people, this season is considered as one of the last good Thomas seasons. Well, that's for most countries except America, since there, it technically was the first season of the new series, aka the Hit era, largely due to most of it having a lot of elements of that era. A whole new intro, new music by Hartshorne, and also a new narrator as well. Strangely though, while the US did get some of the season 7 episodes, they were for some reason narrated by Michelangelis. My best guess is that this was probably done due to Alec Baldwin leaving the show after season 6, and since they didn't have a US narrator, they just had Angelus do it. And I am sorry to say that even as a fan of his narrations from the earlier seasons, even I gotta say, I really don't like his narrations here. They're just not as energetic and fun as his previous work. Well, to be fair, he still does give some pretty good voices.
Double jacker problem. This gave the Fat Controller an idea.
I mean, it's not like Michael Brandon is any better.
How am I going to make the Children's Day really special? He said to Rusty. You know the mountains better than any engine, said Rusty.
Pah, said Gordon.
Overall, I would say I would still prefer watching the UK version. And that's not just due to Angelus being better, which in my opinion he was, but also because of the music. I mean, don't get me wrong, Robert Hartshorne made some pretty good music for this season, but to me, it just kind of feels odd to watch season 7 like this, knowing that there is a version of it with Mike and Junior music. But even then, I would say that Robert Hartshorne made some pretty memorable themes and music as well, such as Emily's theme. Speaking of Emily, let's get on to the characters introduced this season. In my opinion, most of the best episodes are the ones with the new characters, like Gordon and Spencer, Fergus Breaks the Rules, and Something Fishy. Probably because all the new characters introduced this season were pretty good and memorable. Emily seemed to be a very kind and helpful angel who wants to do the right thing. I honestly hate what the later model series did with her character by turning her into basically a complete bossy know-it-all. But for this season at least, she was pretty good. Same for Fergus. Pretty basic stickler for rules type character, yeah, but I did like the episode where he ran away basically. That was pretty neat. But I do have to say, I don't really like Arthur and Murdoch that much because they don't really have much to them. Arthur likes fish, I guess, and Murdoch is a gentle giant type character, and that's pretty much it for them. Although I did really like their awesome designs. Of all the new characters introduced this season, my absolute favorite was most definitely Spencer. I loved his streamlined design and his silver paint, and I really loved the rivalry between him and Gordon, which kind of makes sense as well, as Gordon is based on LNER A1, while Spencer is basically a modern cousin of his, being based on LNER A4. And we see how this rivalry even gets showcased all the way up till the CGI series as well. While characters are one thing, how do the stories of season 7 hold up? Overall, I would say it's a good season. There are various great episodes sprinkled across, but even then, it's most definitely not even close to season 4 or 5. It is not as fast paced or adventurous, and sometimes it honestly just feels really boring to watch. I mean, I find it kind of hard to believe that after so many fast paced and exciting episodes from season 5 and even 6, we could get something really boring such as What's the Matter with Henry or even The Old Bridge. I mean, come on, some of these are just sleep-worthy. Also, while season 6 was the start of stories being more moral based, that felt way more prominent here in season 7.
We're sorry if we hurt your feelings, puffed Thomas. We were only copying you because we think you're grand. Then say no more, me hearties, replied Salty happily. Now they will all work together and have fun together, as good friends should.
One of the worst episodes from this season for me was the Old Bridge. I just really hate that after so many seasons of portraying Scar Louis as this brave, wise Injun, they suddenly decide to make him into a timid little child scared from a damn bridge. I mean, come on, seriously? This is where you have his character end up?
Humph, Goose Duke.
But even among all these, there are still a lot of good and even some great episodes as well. Some of my favorites are Something Fishy, Snow Engine, Fergus Breaks the Rules, the Refreshment Lady episode, and many more. But my most favorite episode would definitely have to be Gordon and Spencer. Like I said before, I really love the dynamic of Gordon and Spencer that's portrayed here, and I really love their rivalry as well. I really love how even though Gordon is jealous of Spencer, he still tries to warn him and still tries to make sure that he's careful. Which to me kind of showcases that Gordon, in a way, sees his younger self in Spencer. The sets this season were pretty great as well. Castle Lock and the Fishing Village were one of my favorites. And the visuals had greatly improved since season 6. In season 6, all the engines seemed to be looking so bland and the overall visual aesthetic was just so dull. I really like how the visuals had improved from last season and how the engines are back to looking much more colorful and not as dull. So to answer the question, does season 7 belong in the classic series or the new series? Well, in my personal opinion, I believe that it definitely belongs in the classic series. I mean, come on, it's the final season directed by David Mitton. Of course it has to. Overall, I would definitely not call this season a bad one. Even if the moral-based stories did feel a tad boring after some point, it still was way better than what followed it. The characters and all were really good, and it even gave us a lot of great new characters as well. And like I said, even the sets were really beautiful. In a way, according to me at least, season 7 was kind of like a transitional season to showcase what's coming in the future, which in my opinion it did pretty well. And for the final season of David Mitton, Mike and Jr. and all the old crew members, in my opinion, they finished off on a pretty good note. While season 7 may be one of the weaker seasons amongst the classic era, it still definitely was a good end to it.